Some murders leave investigators puzzled. For the city of Jackson, it was a reminder that evil can live right next door. And for true crime followers, the interrogation of Kamaya Gamut remains one of the coldest on record. Please comment where you are watching us from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notification. Jackson, Michigan, a quiet town where people know their neighbors, and violence rarely makes headlines. But one spring night in 2013, the city was shaken by a brutal crime that exposed just how dangerous love, jealousy, and alcohol could be when mixed together. Inside a small apartment, a man named Marcel Hill, a 33-year-old disabled resident, was found beaten and stabbed to death. The killer wasn't a stranger nor a thief. It was someone he trusted, someone he believed he could love. Her name was Kamaya Gamut, and what unfolded after her arrest is one of the coldest police interrogations ever recorded. To understand the tragedy, we first need to know who Marcel Hill was. Marcel had lived in Jackson most of his life. He struggled with a disability that made certain things difficult. But those who knew him said he had a good heart. He wasn't rich. He wasn't flashy. What he wanted, more than anything, was stability and love. Friends described him as gentle and hopeful. He had been through hardships, but he always tried to see the best in people. That outlook, sadly, would be the very thing that led him into the path of someone dangerous. Kamaya Gamut was 31 years old at the time. Her life had been chaotic from the beginning. She hadn't finished school. She drifted from place to place, and she often drowned her problems in alcohol. Neighbors knew her as loud, quick-tempered, and unpredictable. While she sometimes played the part of a caring partner, it wasn't long before arguments turned into violence. Police had even been called before due to fights between her and Marcel. But like many victims of toxic relationships, Marcel always let her come back. He believed she could change. He believed that if he just gave her another chance, things would be different. He was wrong. On May 18th, 2013, neighbors heard shouting coming from Marcel's apartment. It wasn't unusual, they had argued before. But this time, the sounds were different. Louder, more violent. One neighbor later told police they heard objects being thrown. Another heard Marcel pleading for calm. And then silence. Inside the apartment, the scene was horrifying. Marcel had been struck in the head with a frying pan with such force that his skull fractured. Then, he was stabbed at least 12 times with a fillet knife. Blood covered the walls and floor. It was a clear sign of rage, not self-defense. And when police arrived, Marcel's body was already cold. Hours later, officers brought Kamaya into custody. Her clothes and skin were spattered with blood. But instead of grief or fear, her reaction shocked detectives. She pulled at her handcuffs, yawned, and laid her head on the table as if she were simply tired. When detectives walked in, she looked at them blankly and asked if she could go home and sleep. At first, she denied even knowing Marcel. Then, when confronted with the truth, she changed her story. She said a friend named Ashley had gone with her to Marcel's home, found him already injured, and called 911. But the police already knew Ashley didn't exist. The interrogation dragged on for hours. Detectives pressed her on her lies, her blood-stained clothes, and the fact that neighbors had witnessed the argument. Kamaya shifted from calm to irritated to panic. At one point, she sneered, "I've watched the first 48. I know how you guys do the psychology stuff. It's not going to work." But detectives didn't need psychology. They had evidence. Marcel was dead, Kamaya's name was on his mailbox, and she had been seen with him that very night. The more she talked, the more tangled her lies became. As detectives laid out the facts, Kamaya's cold demeanor finally began to crack. She burst into tears, begging to see Marcel's body one last time. She screamed that she couldn't believe he was really gone. But to investigators, it wasn't grief, it was panic. Panic that she was caught, that she was about to lose her freedom forever. When the interview stopped, her behavior turned violent. She screamed uncontrollably, kicked furniture, and tried to destroy the interrogation room. It was a frightening glimpse of the rage Marcel must have faced in his final moments. Months later, Kamaya Gamut stood trial for murder. In the courtroom, she showed the same cold indifference. Family members of Marcel sat only feet away, listening to every gruesome detail. The prosecutor laid out the evidence: the frying pan, the knife, the arguments, and the blood that covered her clothes. Neighbors testified about the fighting they had heard. Officers testified about the lies she told. When the verdict came, the courtroom was silent. Guilty. The judge, furious at the brutality of the crime, delivered words that stunned even seasoned court observers. He told Kamaya, "You hit him so hard with a frying pan you caved in his skull. Then you stabbed him over and over until he was dead. You gutted him like a fish. If this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair. I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison." The sentence: life in prison without parole. Even after her conviction, Kamaya insisted she was innocent, claiming she was convicted on lies. But the evidence was overwhelming. For Marcel's family, the sentence could never replace what was lost. But it was justice. Justice for a man who wanted only love, but instead received betrayal and cruelty. Some murders leave investigators puzzled. Others are carefully planned. But this case was different. It was raw, chaotic violence committed by someone who had every chance to walk away, but instead chose to destroy the one person who still believed in her. For the city of Jackson, it was a reminder that evil can live right next door. And for true crime followers, the interrogation of Kamaya Gamut remains one of the coldest on record. A woman capable of murder, then casual enough to take a nap in the same room where detectives told her the man she cared about was dead. If you want to hear more stories where criminals face the full weight of justice, subscribe to the channel. The next interrogation may be even more chilling than this one. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notification. Thanks for watching.